There's a real war on food going on. A war against your right to eat real, natural, uncontaminated food. Why? Well, if you want to go on the conspiracy side of things, it's to weaken you and to make you sick and to kill you. But it's also just, you know, for profit and for control, complete control of the food supply. Last week, Alex Jones put out a video about food, which I thought was really great because, you know, he talked about a lot of issues related to food before, but this time he put out this really great, really concise video, The Truth About Food or something. Concise, easy to understand, packed with information. Something like a real primer for people who just don't know about the whole food situation. Something that would really wake people up. I showed it to one of my friends. I'd been telling her for, you know, a while to stop giving her toddler gum with aspartame, but of course she wouldn't listen to me. But once I showed her this video, she kind of got the picture, you know, and she stopped giving her kid the aspartame gum. So if you haven't seen that video, I'd recommend that you go and watch it. It's a good, at least a good starting point for, you know, if you want to do research into our contaminated food supply. And a good one to maybe show people to wake them up. Although it is a little heavy because he does talk about eugenics and depopulation, but that's all true. Okay, so, you know, the war on food, it's real. It's absolutely real. Some people say, oh, they'll never take away our right to grow food. Well, they're working on it. Actually, Dr. Shiv Chopra recently put up a really great article where he talks about GMOs and examples like how they brought GMOs into India and they want to pass laws, or they already passed some laws that you're not allowed to have any seeds other than the Monsanto GMO seeds. This is about complete control. He mentions that the sheep who ate BT cotton died, like 2,500 of them. And still they put that toxic GMO cottonseed oil into your food. Here's a really great book. If you haven't read it already, Seeds of Destruction by F. William Engdahl. I mentioned in another video about GMOs that'll cause organ damage and shrink your brain. It's true. I'll read you a little excerpt from Chapter 2, The Fox Guards the Hen House. In 1995, just prior to Monsanto's mass commercial sales of GM soybean seeds to American and Argentine farmers, Scotland's Office of Agriculture, Environment and Fisheries contracted the Rowett Research Institute to undertake a 3-year comprehensive study under the direction of Dr. Pushtai. Dr. Pushtai went into this thinking that the study is going to show how wonderful GM foods are, but what happened was he found that it caused organ damage in the rats, and it actually even caused brain shrinkage. They were eating GM potatoes. The most alarming finding from Pushtai's laboratory tests, however, was the markedly smaller brain size of GMO-fed rats compared with normal potato-fed rats. He was interviewed on TV afterwards to present his findings, and he talked about everything, but he left out the part about the brain shrinkage because he thought it would freak people out. So what happened after he went on TV? Well, first he was congratulated by his boss, and then about 3 days later he was given notice to leave, and if he didn't just leave on his own accord, he would be fired without pension or something like that. There was a massive campaign to silence him and to discredit him, which came directly from the orders of Monsanto, who themselves called the US government, who contacted the British government and told them to shut this guy up. That's the kind of stuff that goes on here. Well, in the US, there's a lot of regulation on food growing and food sale. You need all kinds of licenses and permits and inspections, all this kind of thing. So you're not allowed to sell raw milk, for example. So what some people did, and this happened in Ontario as well, was they set up a cooperative where they're not being sold anything because they actually own the food to begin with. They own the cooperative. So let's say in Ontario, they set up a thing where, you know, you can buy a cow. So you actually own the cow, so you have a right to its milk, because they can't stop you from drinking your own cow's milk, right? And people who do this are very heavily persecuted. And this came out recently. It was on Russia Today on the 7th of August. I found this on deprogram.net. Video, food police target organic foods in California. So here in this interview with Russia Today, George Heminger, who's the founder of Survive and Thrive TV, talks about the raid on Rawsome Foods, an organic grocery store with guns, where they raided the store with guns drawn, as it says, in search of raw foods. This was no ordinary inspector's visit. This was a raid. These guys came out with their guns drawn. You can see the video. Police begin guns drawn raid on organic food. Treating these people like they're some kind of criminals, when they're just exercising their human right to eat what they want to eat. So he explains why these kind of cooperatives are a threat to big business. See, the big agribusiness, they want all the control. All this stuff, this has nothing to do with safety. This has to do with what benefits the corporations. So if you still think that the government is looking out for your interests, you need to wake up, because they're looking out for corporate interests. Because if they were really looking out for your interests, they would make sure that we didn't have toxic pesticides, that we didn't have slaughterhouse waste in our food, that we didn't have GMOs. So things like that, aspartame, all these toxic things they put in our food. As Alex Jones mentions in his video, if you go to the grocery store now, you see all kinds of organic food, pesticide-free, MSG-free, because people want that. The store wants to make money, so if you demand it, they will get it, they will supply it. You have a lot of power actually as a consumer, because what you buy will dictate to some extent what will be sold to you. If people, absolutely do not want these contaminated foods and they want alternatives, somebody's going to supply the alternatives. Another thing is buy local, buy from your local farmers, buy from local greenhouses. Support local farmers, because they're not the big corporations. So do it, boycott those corporations as much as you can. And of course, if you can, grow your own food. That's one of the best things that you can do. And barter with neighbors. If you live in an area where, one has blueberries and the other one has eggs, you can barter that. Who's gonna know? Boycott agribusiness, boycott the toxic processed foods. Buy local, grow your own food. Buy into a co-op and take the power back.